tell you something before we open the scripture. Elliot was telling us about one of his classes. Was it the computer programming class? Or one of the introduction to computers or something? And they have different people come in and talk to them. And a man came and spoke to them about artificial intelligence, which is programming a computer in a very sophisticated way to simulate human thought processes, I guess is the best way to explain it. And anyway, in his explanation, in his discussion with them, and Elliot, correct me if I don't say it exactly right, but he was sort of saying that, we're programming these computers in the same way that we as people are programmed. That was his way of looking at it. He said, this guy was saying, we are just like sophisticated computers, and we have been programmed, and everything that we do and everything that we, all the choices we make, we're not really choosing. We've been programmed that way. And so we're just programming computers to be just like us. And the only difference is we just haven't got as sophisticated as this programming that we have. And I thought, how sad to think that your life is completely programmed that way. And by the way, I have met Christians who think the same thing, that we don't have any free will. Everything. I talked to one man who said, I think the more we find out about genetics, we'll find out that everything in our life is pre-programmed, and everything we do and all the choices we made, we didn't really choose. We were programmed that way. But I want to tell you something today, that when Jesus, all the times that Jesus said, whom the Son sets free is free indeed. Could we read that, by the way? This made me think of that. Let's read that. It's in John's Gospel, chapter 6. I didn't actually intend to turn here, but I'd like to read this to you. That's in John's Gospel, chapter 8. John's Gospel, chapter 8. I'm getting closer to it. Let's see. Look at what it says in verse 30. Sorry, Elliot. Verse 30. John's Gospel, chapter 8, verse 30. As he spoke these words, many believed on him. And then said Jesus to those Jews which believed on him, if you continue in my word, then you are my disciples indeed, and you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Now I gather from that, first of all, that he wants us to be free. And you might say, well, what does that mean to be free? See, I'm standing underneath a sign that says freedom. Some people have asked me, why do you have a sign that says freedom? Because I think that's important, by the way. I think Jesus, he says here, the truth shall make you free. I think he wants us to be free. He intends for us to be free. I don't think he intends for us to be puppets on the end of a string and he's pulling the strings and making us dance. I think he wants us to be free. And here he explains, as we read on, what it means. They answered and said, we be Abraham's seed, and were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, you shall be made free? Jesus answered them, verily, verily, I say unto you, whosoever committeth sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abideth not in the house forever, but the Son abideth forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Now what's the difference between a servant and someone who's free? Well, the servant does what he's told. Is that right? The servant is not free to choose. The servant does whatever the master tells him to do. And when he said in the previous verse 34, whoever commits sin is the servant of sin, he means by that as long as sin is in charge, then everyone under the dominion of sin acts the way they do because they're compelled to act that way. Does that make sense? The reason people who are not Christians commit sin is because they are compelled to, because they're under the rulership of something other than Jesus. They're under the rulership of a principle of sin and death, and they're servants. And the servant doesn't choose for himself. But Jesus, notice what he says. Jesus says, the servant abideth not in the house forever, verse 35. That means the servant is in an insecure position. A servant can be dismissed at any time. But the Son abides forever. The Son is secure, in other words, a secure position. Verse 36. If the Son, therefore, shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Now, what Jesus says is you have been the servant. You have been in a servant capacity. But I want you to know I'm the Son. And if I say you're free, then you're free. And what he wants us to be then is free. And what it means to be free then, what does it mean? It means you're free. You're free to choose. You're free to decide and make decisions in your life. I know dealing with people and talking with people a lot of times that having problems with addictions and bad habits and things of that kind. I think I get the sense from speaking to people sometimes that what they're looking for, what they want to have happen is find some kind of situation in which in which they're compelled and controlled to do the right thing. But you know what? I think that always in our lives we are going to always be in a position where it's up to us to choose to do what's right. And I don't think we ever come to a place I think He wants us to be free. I don't think He wants us to be puppets and robots. I think if He wanted puppets and robots, He would have made puppets and robots. But, right? I think He could have made automatons. But He made us the way we are because He wants us to be free and to do what's right because we choose to do what's right. And to worship God because we choose to worship God. And, by the way, to love God because we choose to love God. You know, love that's compelled is not really love. Did you ever think of that? Like a, put a gun to somebody's head. Do you love me? Yeah, I love you. Of course. But I think what Jesus is trying to get across to us here is that He wants us to be free. And in being free means we're free to choose. And always in our lives, every day, your life, you can think of it this way, your life is made up of thousands of little choices, little decisions through the day. And that's what a free person does. And rather than that being a bad thing, I think that's a good thing. I've got the opportunity to choose to do the right thing. And choose not to do the wrong thing. Choose to do the right thing. Okay, that's all for that. No charge for that. That's free.